Rev up your engines. Here's something interesting. A Hyundai Veracruz, a lot of people don't know that much about them. They don't sell them anymore. They only sold a maximum of 11,800 one year. They weren't that popular in the United States. Now it's called the Veracruz. Of course, they named it after Veracruz in Mexico, but hey, it wasn't made in Mexico, it was made in Korea. You want to buy a Korean car, I'm not a big fan, but you want one made in Korea. They do a better job there. Just like a Japanese car, if I'm going to buy a Toyota, I don't want one made in Mexico. I don't even want one made in the United States. Now, I've got a Matrix that was made in Canada, in Cambridge, Ontario. They did a really good job. Now they only make Lexuses there, right? But I would rather have a Japanese car made in Japan like my wife's Lexus. So this one was made in Korea. That's a plus right there. And as we look under the hood, there's actually a plus on the Veracruz. See by the giant V6 emblem there, it is a V6 engine, right? And it's 3.8 liters. It's a decent size. From my vast experience of all types of cars, I would never buy a Hyundai with a 4-cylinder engine. Too many engine problems. The V6s, that's another story. This thing's got 160-something thousand miles on it. It doesn't burn oil. They knew how to make these V6 engines quite well. Change the oil regularly. They can last quite a long time. Now, these V6 engines put out a decent amount of horsepower and they get okay gas mileage. They're not oil burners and they don't blow up like the 4-cylinder ones do. This thing has an Aisin transmission. Think Toyota, they own the company, right? So, excellent transmissions. This, interesting enough, is the last year they sold them in the United States. And it's probably one of the best ones they ever made, but it was kind of like too little, too late. So he paid $9,500 for it, but that was 5 years ago. If 5 years ago you were going to buy a Toyota SUV, a Lexus SUV, a Honda SUV, or an Acura SUV, forget $9,500. You would have been paying probably $25,000 or $30,000 for one. There is a reason that you can get a vehicle like this and get your money's worth. Okay, $9,500. He's been driving it for 5 years. Obviously, he's got his money's worth. They claim that in the United States, it's between $5,000 and $6,000 a year is what it costs you for buying, depreciation, repairs, and all that crap, right? He's got $9,500 for 5 years, so he's making out okay, you know? And he hasn't put hardly any money into it. Brake job, rotor, oil changes. So, he's really coming out quite well. That's why I tell people, always look at what you're paying, what you're getting, and how long it's going to last. Because these are not the Hyundais with the 4-cylinder or the turbocharged engines that blow up, or horrible transmissions that go out. It's an Aisin, basically Toyota source transmission. They're pretty much bulletproof. And these V6 engines, hey, 160-something thousand miles, doesn't burn any oil. They did know how to make them. It's just they couldn't market them correctly. Because if you look at the car, as the owner just said, they're copying a bunch of Lexus designs stylistically, right? And underneath it, they're not bad vehicles. They just didn't sell that many of them in the United States. For example, last year in the United States, Fiat sold 685 cars, the whole country, right? Yet Fiat was Stellantis' best-selling model worldwide that same year, right? Figure that out. They sell millions of Fiats, but only 685 in the United States. If you look at it, hey, it doesn't look any different than the SUVs Americans are buying. The leather's still in decent shape. They got a lot of leg room, armrests. I mean, hey, it's not a bad design car. For its comparable size with other vehicles, this thing gets like 22 miles a gallon on the highway, 17 in the city. Hey, it's a big heavy vehicle with a V6 engine in it, and it runs fine. It doesn't have the modern technology that the other ones do, like I said earlier, but it still runs pretty solid. And with that Toyota-style Aisin transmission, hey, they can last an awful long time. With the giant scan tool, we're gonna do a full diagnosis, and we'll do auto VIN. While it's doing its thing, you can say, 167,735 miles. Original engine, original transmission, doesn't burn oil. It's a detective vehicle. We'll do standalone diagnosis. Already read the VIN. So Hyundai USA Veracruz 2012 3.8. So, and here we have topology scan. We can go through all the systems, and while we are, kind of look around. Hey, it's a luxury car. It's got heated seats, 2-speed heated seats. You can shift it manually if you want. I mean, who's going to bother with that? It's an SUV. Got a decent setup here. Of course, it's old school. It's got a CD player, an AM/FM radio, but it does have XM Sirius radio built in. Look at that. Whoa. Like I said before, hey, the leather seats are still in pretty good shape. Hey, not bad for $9,500 5 years ago. We got a bunch of codes. A lot of them probably aren't going to mean diddly squat, so we will start at the top and work our way down. Electronic stability control. Well, you never expect that to work that well, even back in these days. That was 12 years ago. Even when they were new, they didn't work all that well. So let's see what the codes are. He's got left rear speed sensor and right rear speed sensor. He knows he had a problem with that. Who cares? It doesn't work anymore. We will erase the codes, but they'll come back because something's going on with those sensors back there. He even replaced one, but it still didn't fix it. So stability control systems don't work all that well to begin with. And this one now isn't working at all. It says the sensor's not working right, so hey, why spend a fortune? You drive down the road, you step on the brakes, it stops. Okay, now I erased it, and you notice it kept one right rear speed sensor circuit open or short. So there's a wiring problem with that, but it also said the left rear, and the left rear is probably a bad sensor, and it won't pick that up until you drive the car, and then when you come back, that code will return. This code stays because when the computer checks, it sees the circuits open and it leaves the code for open circuit. Oh, we got tire pressure monitoring system. Well, same thing. Each tire has a sensor, and they got batteries in them. They're probably gone. Who knows? If he bought new tires, it might not even have sensors. Who cares? We'll ignore that. The airbag system, I don't trust those things anyways, but we'll see. It has airbag events. Well, that's interesting. Let's see what event number 1 was. Trouble code. Occupant classification system mat defect. Well, the seat belts work fine, so put them on. Don't spend a ton of money on those things. Do you really trust that an airbag that has an explosive mixture in it is going to work after it's sat for 12 years and all of a sudden it's supposed to work within a millisecond of you hitting something? I don't trust my life to seat belts. I see them, they buckle in. As long as the frame isn't rotten and the bolts are in tight, you're a lot safer. All right, so now it does have a code for the transmission. Like I said, these are ACEN transmissions, but we'll see what this goofy code is. Right rear vehicle speed sensor. Well, we already knew that, so there's nothing wrong with the transmission. And we'll look at the body control module, see what that says. We'll see what the body control code is. Probably more nonsense. CAN timeout between smart key module and driver door module. Okay, what probably happened is at one point in time, this key didn't work right when you pushed it to unlock the door, so it decided to trip that code, but he gets in and out, so, and as you can see, the car starts perfectly fine. The crazy one, here's the last one we're gonna look at, is driver's door module. Same thing, it'll probably be the same code. CAN error, CAN communication bus off. So it says there's some kind of communication error in the door. Well, it opens and closes. Who really cares one way or the other? Well, let's look at live data here. We'll go to the engine system and we'll see what kind of shape it's in. It seems to run fine. It doesn't burn oil, but you never know. And here we go. Black is good, red is bad. Look at some interesting information here. About the throttle information, it's all normal. Even gives you the AC pressure. That's pretty cool. And all the injectors, look, they're all perfect. They're all the same. The injection system's fine. Long-term fuel term both banks. It's only adding 0.9%. That's almost nothing. Pretty good for a vehicle with 167,000 miles. And you can see the misfires. They're all zeros across the board. So let's take it for a spin. We're going to back up, take a little spin. We got to get on anyways. My wife's taking her Lexus to the grocery store. She's in that car, even though you can't see her. First thing I noticed though is 167,000 miles. Idles like a dream. It's a nice high SUV. It feels safe. Like I said, this is an ACEN transmission. You can barely feel it shift gears, even at this mileage. And of course, you got the ABS light and stuff on. Traction control stuff isn't working because the sensors in the back and the wiring have gone bad. But who really cares? It still drives the same. If you know how to drive, you can drive it. Here comes spring, nice pink tree blossoms. Now, strangely enough, I gotta say, if somebody was driving in this car and I was blindfolded, you could tell me you were driving in a Toyota or a Honda or a Lexus, and I would have thought, okay, fine, you know. They could have said, look, it's got 167,000 miles. And if I was blindfolded, I'd say, well, you know, those Japanese cars, they can still take it and be running smooth as silk. Well, this is a Korean car, but it is made in Korea. It does have the V6 engine, not the 4, and it has the ASIN transmission. It's not your typical junky Hyundai. We'll go a little faster. Somebody might be following us, and they are, but they're in a truck, so they're slow. So I'll rush up here. Let's come to a stop. Okay, here we go. Oh man, listen to that! Woo-wee! Now the reason it did a big burnout is because the traction control doesn't work anymore. So it just peels right out. I like this much better. Power, 167,000 miles. It's burning rubber like that. Hey, I had no problem controlling it. I know how to drive cars, right? Well, certainly going to be surprising to most people. You'd think, oh, the Hyundai can't get out of its own way. It's a zippy vehicle. We're going 40. We want to pass somebody. We'll floor it. Look how fast it gets up to 60, and when I let go, look how smoothly it downshifts. Like I say, it's an ASIN transmission. The only thing I notice here is I step on the brakes. See how the steering wheel shakes? Well, the front rotors are warped, so you need to replace the front brake rotors and the brake pads if you care about the shaking. But if you don't care about that little shaking, hey, I've had customers drive cars years that way. They don't care. Just means the rotors are warped. You want to change them, change them. You don't care? You can continue driving it that way. I'm doing burnouts in a Hyundai Veracruz. I wouldn't have thought that when I woke up this morning before I tried it out. Gotta say, still quiet. Wheel bearings aren't worn out. Don't hear any noise. Certainly surprised by this Hyundai. So I've got a question. Why did they stop making these things? This is one of the few well-made Hyundais I've ever been in. What did I think? I gotta say, I'm impressed with the car I bought for $9,500 5 years ago, right? Doing burnout, sure, the traction control doesn't work. I like them better that way. My cars don't have traction control because they're all too old, and I know how to drive, right? Now, I would have never paid $30-something thousand for the car when it was new, but look what he's getting out of it for his small amount of money. Hey, I have to say, this is one of the only Hyundais I've ever driven that impressed me, so why don't they make them anymore? They make a lot of junk, right? And they kind of acted like Toyota. Consider they got an ASIN Toyota transmission, right? They kind of perfected them more as time went on. Only they just stopped and didn't make them anymore. Instead of Toyota, just keep making the things, right? I don't know what's going on in Hyundai. Maybe they cost too much money to build. I don't know. But this was a well-made car in its day, and it's still going strong. So you can find a used one with lower mileage on it. You might get a good deal that's going to last you quite some time. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.